evening, everybody. This is Tuesday, November 16th, the Public Facilities, Arts, and Culture Committee. I am detecting a quorum. I've got myself, Chair, Councilmember Hager, Councilmember Henderson, Councilmember Syracuse, and Young. That is 5 members present. I went ahead and did a quick consent agenda, and so I will go ahead and read those off first. About RS 2021-1241, Allen Bradford, Swar, and Stiles accepts an in-kind grant from Americans for the Arts to the Metro Nashville Arts Commission to implement a diversity in arts leadership program to provide technical assistance to help establish a summer internship program. Then bills on second reading, BL 2021-977. Provides for the designation of public property within specified areas of downtown Nashville as a temporary special event zone during the time period beginning at 9:00 p.m. on December 30th, 2021 and ending at 6:00 a.m. January 1st, 2022, relative to the use of these areas in conjunction with the 2021 New Year's Eve celebration and related activities. Does anybody want any of those pulled off consent? No. All right, do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion.
All those in favor of the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against?
May I ask just a quick general informational question?
Go ahead.
Not particular to the vote on 977 for the special event zone, but I know we've gone to Bicentennial Mall and kind of come back downtown. Are we in a more kind of foot of Broadway place, ascend the park? New Year's Eve, as far as that goes, is that going to include the park in any way?
I don't know. That is not ours.
Okay, all right. So it does not involve the area of the park. Okay, that was just
Talking
my...
about Riverfront?
Right.
It could involve it, but we didn't.
No, I hadn't talked to Butch, in a minute, so I can find that out, or me or him can call Butch and have that.
I can ask Councilman O'Connell again. Okay. I mean, I know that is kind of...
in our area.
For curiosity, she's over here killing the cat.
I don't think the Bicentennial Mall worked out too good.
Yeah.
They spent a bunch of money fixing it back up. The last time I remember.
And I think people want to come to Nashville and go to Broadway, not Bicentennial Mall.
That's right.
All right, so that brings us back to RS 2021-1204, Gamble, Johnson, Allen, Bradford, and Hauser. It is a resolution appropriating $1.9 million in American Recovery Plan Act funds from Fund Number 30216 to Metro Parks to be used for managing homeless encampments and the renovation and repair of Brookmead Park. There are several amendments, so we will start with Amendment 1. Do I have a motion?
So, or wait, on the resolution or the...
The amendment, first
Okay.
amendment.
Chair, could I ask, please, just for the benefit of the public and for committee members present, can you, as you mention the amendments, can you just summarize what they are, please?
Do we have anybody?
Councilman Parker's here.
I don't have copies of those amendments. All right, so Amendment 1, do we have a second before we...
Second,
Okay,
so we
sure.
discuss it.
All right, so Amendment 1 is reducing the appropriation in the capital and Section 2 of the resolution by $603,000. And this is for the Bobcats?
Chair, yes, this amendment would remove all of the heavy equipment. So there's a line item. If you look at the, I actually got the documentation from Sandra's blog. That's where I saw this, but not sure where we can access that breakdown most easily. But this is Bobcats, excavators, some super duper bright lights, and other heavy equipment.
Can I ask a question? Do we have that same equipment with Public Works or not?
They do have some, and we have had needed to use some free borrow.
Well, is there a way that we can work with Public Works to use their equipment, or is that not a possibility?
We have before.
Huh?
We have before. We coordinate with them if we need to.
Have you discussed that with Public Works?
I have not. I mean, the reason that I brought this amendment forward was because this is specifically billed as legislation to deal with the homeless, and I don't believe that equipping ourselves with equipment to break up camps is the right way to deal with our problem of homelessness in Nashville.
Well, I know the homeless
that's
got
what
to
the
be
equipment's
addressed
for.
too, I understand that.
Chair, could I make a suggestion, just for purposes of the conversation? So I know that we have advanced the Amendment 1 for discussion, but I think it would be helpful to the discussion if we just went ahead and said, Amendment 1 is this, Amendment 2 is this, Amendment 3 is this, and the late amendment is that, and then we can, yeah, you know.
I'd be more than happy to read the other amendments. So,
That's fine.
Amendment 2 is reducing appropriation in the capital section 2 by $480,000. This is to basically remove the eye in the sky cameras. Amendment 3, reducing the appropriation in the amount of $850,000. I believe this is for the repairs and restoration of Brookmead Park. And do we have a copy of Councilmember Rosenberg's? I
Councilman-
believe his was just basically saying any equipment could not be used for the purpose of the
Right.
homeless.
I think what Councilman Rosenberg was doing was hearing the community response and concern to all the various aspects of it, and if the concern was in the way the bill was authored, to be frank, the way the bill was, kind of the caption was written and it was framed, was problematic, I think. He was basically just saying, by way of amendment, that that concern would be addressed by saying, okay, you can have the cameras, you can have the heavy equipment, you can do the renovation, but it will not be to, I don't have the exact wording, remove the encampment, is my understanding. Does any other colleague have a similar understanding, or
But
I
even
don't want
if
to
we
speak on
clean it
behalf?
up, how do we address the problem with the people that are there and taking care of them? That's my question.
Right.
Okay?
Couple of things. When I was commander of these precincts, we had several camps. And we went in, gave people notice that, 30 days from now, we're going to be coming and you're going to have to move. So you have time now to go get some resources, find some help, and get yourself off the streets. And then we went and cleaned up those areas. They do impact community, and I feel for the people over at Brookmead, and it's time we cleaned this camp up. You've all got the emails from the folks who live there and have been living there, and that's not to be uncompassionate. I have the greatest faith in Mr. Cervantes here. If many of you don't know, his family has a legacy at the Salvation Army of helping people, homeless, addicted, you name it. And I trust that he will continue to do the best he can to these people over at that homeless camp. And I don't want to be uncompassionate to these folks, but we can, with the best of intentions, we allow these people to camp. We let them camp down at Caldwell Park by 7 Mile Creek, and then we have a flash flood in March that kills 7 of them. We're not doing these people a favor always by just stay here and we're going to keep you in the camp. It's time to start taking some real action, offer the services that we can to the people that accept it, and those that don't want to accept it, sorry, you're going to have to move. Brookmead has a right to their park. So I would like to see us pass this resolution unamended.
The resolution to do what? I'm sorry.
Pass the resolution without the amendments.
Gotcha.
My question though was, can we use equipment from Public Works and save some of the money? And that was my question. But Public Works has a lot of this equipment already.
And I have a question for Director Odom. In the scheme of all the parks in our city that need refurbishment, need repairs, where did Brookmead fall in that list prior to the media circus that came out about this? Like, was it 5th in line, 12th in line?
It was probably at the top. I mean, the encampment at Brookmead is not new. It's been there for years. And the issue is that there is no permanent solution for the unhoused. So when parks maintenance and park maintenance goes down to clean up with the help of MMPD and Parks Police, they clean it up, but then there is still no place for these unhoused residents to go, so they come back. And so if there's no solution, then it doesn't make sense to renovate the park or clean up or anything. And just to clarify, none of the heavy equipment that's requested is intended to aggressively force people out. This is for after the encampment is abandoned and folks have been housed or placed wherever they will be. It's not to be aggressive at all.
This may be a question for the administration. Hearing that this $850,000 would not be used until after the encampment has been cleared out. I just lost my train of thought.
I think I know where you were going, and we want to stay.
Why spend the money, or why approve the money now if it's not going to be used for months or years?
So we joined Director Odom in the Parks Department as reflected by the Financial Oversight Committee. We are committed to best practices on housing the unsheltered. That is first and foremost. This fiction that somehow the bulldozers were going to roll out tomorrow targeting the unhoused, that is absolutely untrue, not anybody's intention whatsoever. We are following the best practices in reducing the number there by getting them housing. We had 14 housed this week, and that's a...
To the Mobile Housing Navigation Center.
So, Mike, respectfully, I think it's not being advanced as a fiction, right? It's the perception of the community based on their reading of the resolution, right? So what we are responding to is the understandable concern of the community, having read the resolution as drafted.
Right, but
And so, we're not disparaging or asserting that anybody was going to, clean out. But where we are right now is there's a broad perception in the community that if this is approved, that's what will happen. And so I guess my question to the administration is, can we press the reset button? I would say it's either, colleagues, the Rosenberg amendment that kind of just says, but I don't think that's then responsive to some colleagues' concerns about actually addressing it. So I respect what you're saying, that that's not the intent, nor is what it would be done, but we're already pretty far down this road, and that's what everybody thinks,
But the caption, keep in mind, goes beyond homelessness. I mean, it specifically addresses renovation. With respect to, if the concern was just the level of trust on how is this equipment going to be used and the timing, the Rosenberg Amendment makes perfect sense. There's no objection on our part. We don't think any of them are necessary, but of the four, the late filed Rosenberg Amendment, if that addresses trust concerns, that is fine. To clarify that there is no intent to use this to evict homeless before we have the opportunity to house the unsheltered through our best practices.
does anybody have the wording of the Rosenberg late filed amendment? I don't,
So, while you're pulling that up, I'm going to ask this question. And again, it's kind of along the same lines of talking about this $850,000 that cannot, will not, won't be spent until the park is cleaned up. Would it then make better sense to use that $850,000 to actually help get these people into a home, so that we're cleaning up the camp that way?
Ms. Wilson, Mr. Survey, to comment on the timing.
I'll just say one thing.
Go ahead.
I think we've learned a lot about the caption writing here, but the way this was discussed in the COVID Oversight Committee meeting, if any of you had a chance to observe the tape or talk with your colleagues who were there, is there was a package of requests that were related to homelessness. And even to be very fair to the Parks Department, we had asked them to give us COVID-related needs in the moment versus the broader set of ARP needs. So we took the time to bring forward a whole package. You all passed in the last meeting all of the funding that we were looking at to help support the housing activities, outreach, flex teams, additional park center funding, some of the emergency shelter funding, and that builds off of a really large amount of money and vouchers that we have right now, resources we have right now from ARP through HUD, through MDHA. So we are actively working to house folks. Now the Mobile Navigation Center, which you all approved back in August for $850K, it's taken a minute, longer than we expected for it to stand up, but it has stood up. And 14 people are moving in there right now this week, and we have 40 placements open, permanent, for them to then move into, for us to flow the next group into. So we're actively working that commitment, and our hope is truly to work that down to a point where either we have people who are left, who aren't willing to take housing resources, because that occurs. And at that point in time, our hope is that's a smaller number for us to have to work with, and for us to present housing options, continue to present housing options too. Under Jefferson Street, we did that. We got from something like, I don't have Central here right now, but we got from something like
70.
well over 70
Yeah.
down to less than 5.
Well, it was three at the,
And so anyways, the issue we learned there is if you don't clean and secure it, at the end of the day, it comes back. And so anyways, our hope was to have all the resources lined up, to push it as hard as we could, surge it like we did, same size, get it down to just a few. And yeah, at that point in time, we're gonna have to have real conversations with those individuals. A lot of them, if you've been to the site, have 4 or 5 tents set up for themselves. They have really staked out really large pieces of property, and so it is a harder situation to move them out of right now.
but we're going to decompress the camps, just like you said, to keep it not 30 days would push it, but to where we. So anyway, with your approval of the outreach team and the flex team, I'm able to blitz those areas. I know that's not a great word, but I super focus.
A lot of the problem with all of this is communication, respectfully.
And you have my due diligence that communication is fixing to change, because that's why I'm here. And I learned those lessons at OEM during all that debacle during 2020, right? Remember the conference calls we were having every Thursday? I was like, guys, we got to get ahead of it. Let them know the information before they call. That way we keep some of the emotion out of it. We're actually sharing information, right? Because of where we were. So we're with HUD TAs. I'm with them daily right now to form that communication pattern in the best, like a dashboard or anything that I can produce on Fridays where everybody can go to a dashboard, get the information of our efforts and the results that we're seeing that week. It might be small numbers, but at least we're moving in a direction. And we can streamline that as we move along.
So here we are, okay,
Yeah,
with
right.
this resolution, the perception in the community, the administration can, say what they're saying, and we appreciate that. And you all are doing good work, but I without that in place, right? So the challenge becomes, this resolution is what gets the attention, communication,
Yep.
the concern, because we're struggling to balance sharing, this is the good work we're doing.
Yes.
This is the foundation we're laying. This is how we are helping these
Yes.
folks. And so, cart, horse, communication, otherwise, you need to be showing the good faith efforts to house these folks, respond to the concerns in the park. Then you deliver a well-drafted resolution framed by all that good work. And we're not all here doing this, right, like we are.
Because we're
Right.
juggling information right now and
Right, so,
communication.
if it were me, what I would suggest to the administration, and definitely defer this, go back to the drawing board, reframe all this, and come back to us in 2 weeks or whatever, and just, we're gonna have this communication in here, we're gonna go out, we're gonna have it on the floor, then it's like, advocates, parks people, but we're not having the conversation we need to be having about this. So, Chair, whether it's the Rosenberg Amendment or just a deferral of some sort or a withdraw it and somebody redraft it, I am not inclined in this committee meeting to just talk to all the merits of, take out the heavy equipment, but leave the cameras, but don't leave the cameras, but do the park restoration. We're just, that's not a constructive conversation, so I don't want to really belabor all the various amendments. I hope we don't belabor them on the floor. I would suggest to the administration, there is an opportunity for you all to acknowledge that this was not communicated well, for you to take the opportunity to share the good work that you're doing, share all that good, and just come back to us in a couple meetings and, try again.
I'll get to you. I just want to kind of tag on to what Councilmember Henderson's mentioning. What we've seen in the last few weeks, there's been a lot of screw-ups in communication between, and I agree with her, the wording of this resolution is terrible. It does not, I don't believe the caption and the wording truly encapsulates the spirit and the meaning of what is the intention. We've had the mayor's office debacle trying to invite us to parade through these camps like it's a zoo, and basically making us look terrible. So I think everybody needs to recognize that there's been a lot of bad planning, bad communication on this, and we need to, I agree, I think we all need to kind of step back, cool off, come back with a better worded resolution that truly encapsulates what we're trying to do here. Councilmember Nash?
With deferring this indefinitely tonight, give you a chance to rework it, come back, is there a time issue, something we need to do?
Budget and Finance Committee deferred it one meeting.
Okay. One meeting, give you the time you need to.
You have a quorum, okay.
So if it's already going to be deferred, would that give the administration time to maybe come back with a substitute?
Chair. At the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, we approved, recommended for approval Amendment 1 and 2. And then when we started discussing the third one, that's where we deferred for one meeting.
Which one's the third one again?
The third one is the $850,000
For the cleanup of the park?
for the cleanup.
Two is not.
So we did not really debate the late amendment from Councilmember Rosenberg, because at that time that we went ahead and deferred it. It's important to recognize that when you add up Amendment 1, 2, and 3, the fiscal note, it equals the exact amount that the total resolution is asking for. So it's three of these amendments are basically killing us. So I would agree a deferral until a little bit of a reset is a good idea. This is a diametrically opposite conversation than what we had at Budget and Finance. And I did not hear anything about what has been done at the camp in Budget and Finance, which is really important. So I do think we need to kind of hit the reset button a little bit and put a communication plan together about what the plan is going to be here.
Go ahead.
How long is it going to take for y'all to establish permanent housing for most of these people who Brookmead do?
Yeah, it's going to take a minute, but I mean, we've got 40 right now, and then I'm working on another 20, and I'm going to keep going at that rate until we have the affordable housing. I met today with contractors that were willing to come in and buy hotels and help us out there and provide the wraparound service. So talks are being held, and that's the communication I want to start having. I've been in the seat 10 days, right? So yeah, so it's been a whirlwind for me, but I understand what's going on. We're behind the curveball on communication, right? And I believe in transparency, and we're behind the curveball on action. And I think that's why they brought me in, because of 2020, right? And I like to get going. You know this. You and I have talked communication a lot about the assessment site page and how hard it is to read. How so I'm into that. I like it. So I want to move forward. But I cannot give you a timeline, but I can tell you you'll see improvements weekly. Every 2 weeks you'll see those improvements. I have to decompress this camp. I can't just go in and take it out because I got nowhere for them to go. Right? So that's an honest, true statement. But if I can help 1 or 2 a week, and the next thing you know, we're looking at an area where I can say we can start enforcing those. You can't camp here overnight because we'll have places to go. All right? It's going to take a second. We are going to formulate a plan. I think I'm presenting that Tuesday to the mayor and the homeless council, homeless planning council. I'll have that to them to show the strategic plan over the next year, and then I'll grow from there. But it's going to take me a minute. I can't say it's going to take me, a month to do that. I can't do that because the units aren't there. But when the units become available, we have the outreach teams, the coordinated entry. We have all those players in place to help me rapidly rehouse or house people that are experiencing homelessness. That's a true statement.
And one other question, Director Monique, is the cameras, the 480,000, is that just for Brookmead Park?
Oh, no. No, that's across the system.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to talk last night, I'm sorry, but I didn't get the chance to get to the microphone. I use, from OEM standpoint, I use every one of those cameras for flooding, for tornado damage. My initial damage assessments come off those cameras. Y'all, I wish y'all could be in there when we activate to see, I know he has, to see that real-time data that I get from an emergency standpoint so I can send people to your part of town, or the encampments that are under the bridges. And I can see my flood gauges, but I can also see where it really is as far as it's affecting people and put those processes in place. That's the real deal for the cameras, is the security and safety for all who reside here. I hate that it got this flare, the negative flare of I'm impinging on, privacy, or I'm gonna go take out I didn't do this, but you know what I'm saying. Take out the homeless encampment. The cameras are they're huge for our response from OEM and the safety of people that reside in that park, because they have, I'm sorry, I don't want to be late. I didn't get a chance to do that last night. I wanted y'all to hear that.
In the meantime, and so something that we have brought up in this committee previously, and I've spoken to Director Odom about, and I've asked you, Commander Corman, I think there is merit, whether on the LPR side or otherwise, mobile cameras. And you shared that, when putting the mobile cameras in place, you were able to, so how many mobile assets do we have in the meantime? So to support the good work that you are doing to house folks and get to a place where we can have the conversation about the cleanup and have that kind of broken apart from any sort of perception of removal or forced removal, do we have sufficient mobile camera assets at this time okay, so again, as far as, order of operations or whatever, y'all have just kind of strategically and from communication standpoint, just like I understand it's related, but there's too much in one thing, and if you just sort of take out and you discuss cameras and the importance of that, and then how that's related, so there's 2 here and there's 4 there, whatever, then you advance the conversation around safety in parks and cameras, right? Then there's the Brookmead and I get that they're related, but y'all just got to figure out a better way to advance these needs that don't create this kind of firestorm. So is there anything, if we were to defer one meeting in the meantime, that, I think you should just do that no matter what, but is an immediate need that cannot be met if we don't pass this at this time.
Yeah. So in terms of the cameras, I just want to add on, because it's going to tie into what your question is. Although when they activate the cameras, they are watching them live. They are currently monitoring them when a situation arises.
Real time.
Real time. We would not do that. We don't have the manpower, nor are we interested in doing it, but it's nice to have a camera that is in the area that if someone says, hey, I've been a victim of something, they give us a date and time, we can shrink it down and just look at that. All we want to try to do is solve a crime. Now, I will say this, the mobile cameras that you talk about, Mrs. Henderson, is we have a handful for the police department, and they have slowly shrunk in size. You remember Sky Cops. We don't have that many of those anymore, and they're really good because you can place them when you need them.
Right.
And that's what we did at Brookmead Park at the very beginning, but we had them for maybe a week, and then they came back. They were gone for the downtown Grand Prix, and then they came back. One of those incidents, we caught a crime, and then another week.
So bring us a 4% request for the mobile cameras.
Well,
I've been saying that in this committee for years.
All I'm saying is they are valuable. They're pitched for whatever cameras they want. So there are different options if they want to go mobile or static.
And one more thing on the equipment, sir, forgive me. I used every piece of equipment during the tornadoes and the floods several times in 2020. Ran her resources short, ran Public Works short, ran everybody short from that. So there is a need for the equipment. That's all I'll say on that, okay? So it's not for me to go bulldoze, and I understand the timing of all that's terrible. I got it, but it's a need that we need as a city. Now, that's my OEM hat. From a homeless impact division, it helps us keep the parks clean, so we can keep a livable, cleanable space, right, for everybody. Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
How many of the permanent cameras get knocked out versus the mobile cameras?
Okay, Right now, we have everyone just talking. The chair, I'm sorry,
Thank you.
Councilmember Hager, but
Yeah, I recognize Jeff.
Oh, I'm
before
sorry.
Jeff.
That's all right, thank you, Chair. So, two things, one question. Director Odom, you mentioned that $480,000 was not just for Brookmead Park, but those are cameras for the whole park system? Well, that's a problem, because the caption here says that this money's gonna be used for Brookmead. So that's a fundamental structural problem here, that we are being asked to spend money that we don't know that is gonna actually be used for other areas of other parks. So that in of itself should mean a deferral. The second thing is, from what I'm understanding, Chief, is that you need a little more time to do your work anyway, and that even if we were to pass this unamended today, you would need more time to be able to do your work before we can effectuate anything that we pass here.
From the cleanup
Tonight.
standpoint?
Right.
Yes, sir.
I mean, from
from
taking care of the people.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
If we can defer it and get it cleaned up to present in a better way, it's better communicated.
Right.
Yes, I can use that time.
So it sounds like it's okay if we were to do the one meeting deferral.
Yes.
Is it, okay, so,
The equipment won't get here overnight either.
right.
Well, it's out in the ocean somewhere right now.
Do you still need your question answered?
Yeah, my question is, I know we have some cameras in parks and they get knocked out. I mean, do the mobile cameras get knocked out too with guns or rocks or anything like that?
Okay, so the mobile cameras that we use, we call them SkyCop. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we have some damage to those, but there's several cameras on that particular unit, and one is dedicated to protecting the unit itself. Now, you can't protect it from a BB gun, 100 yards away or whatever they're doing, but they are tamper resistant because you can see what's going on, those mobile ones.
So the mobile cameras may be better than the permanent?
Well, I don't know what
For a
that would-
temporary fix.
Yeah, I don't know what they're, I mean, yes, if we had one to put over there while we tried to navigate folks to permanent housing, it would cause some address some safety concerns of the residents over there. And I'm talking about the residents of the park.
Right.
No matter if we get cameras over there or not, I'm still dedicating 2 quality life officers. Nothing's gonna change from what we're doing.
Right.
It's just, if we can't control it to some degree, then it's just somewhat difficult. Now, whatever the application Mrs. Odom's gonna use for the parks, I mean, that depends what camera you use. I can just tell you that for us, with limited resources and the money to buy the funds to buy those cameras, sometimes the mobile ones are a quick fix, but good luck getting those too, because they're in back order.
Councilmember Sarah?
Thank you, Chair. Just one more question.
Yes, sir.
Because what I'm hearing from Budget and Finance yesterday, here again is a little different, and then the clarifying emails that we got today about the use of the cameras. So I heard you say that it would be up to parks to be able to have access to view those cameras live?
Anybody could view them live. Our purpose would not be to sit there and monitor those.
Right. So based on that, I'm just thinking, just based on that yesterday, then there was questions that came, and we got some clarifying answers from, I think, from both IT and parks about the level, the amount of time that we keep the data and how it's accessed and all that, because it ties in with this whole camera and LPR issue that we've got going on as well. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, that was a big discussion yesterday in Budget and Finance, and it was limited to having the data and having when we could actually access the data. There was no discussion about cameras being used live to basically watch the homeless at the park.
Do I have a chance to respond to that? We wouldn't, we don't do that. So I'm trying to catch up and be on the same page with everybody. We do not use these cameras full-time until we need them. Does that make sense? So we don't have, you all know that. We don't have
an incident, you go back and you look at the footage.
That's exactly right. For his case, for my case, there's a storm moving west to east. I can start pulling those cameras up across the county and see what kind of damage this thing is doing behind it. So I can either warn people ahead of it or start sending teams to the affected area. That's how I really use those cameras real time. So in conjunction with other information I'm getting from the National Weather Service, all that. So they're a huge player. I've called her several times, and we have a memorandum of understanding that if we activate the OC, I can activate her cameras so I can see, hey, we have a homeless encampment and they were affected by the tornado. I can go and pull that up and see what kind of damage we got going. Right?
Councilmember Young?
Mr. Chair, what's our current posture? What's the motion on the, I mean, where are we at this point? Because we've beat, and I think we're to the point where can either defer one meeting. What's the motion on the floor right now? And if there's not one, I'm going to go ahead and move to defer the bill one meeting.
Yeah, I don't believe we ever settled on one, so the motion on the floor was a deferral for one meeting by Councilmember Young. I heard a second from Councilmember Nash. So that will be our vote. One meeting deferral, all those in favor? All right, any against? All right, with that, there's no special guests this month, this meeting, so we stand adjourned.
Thank y'all for communicating, appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief.